We are in 2 Samuel chapter 19.
Oh, Tom,
Yes.
you told me to remind you this week, or you'd forget about what I asked you after class last week.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
I think the question was, why did God allow David to stay on the throne?
Right.
And my question to you, actually, and I should have brought it up in class,
Yep.
but didn't, was, had the bloodline of Jesus been established at this time?
Right.
So I'll let you go into the rest of
Yeah, his question was, is part of the reason that David was still on the throne even after he seemed to be making some mistakes to stay on the throne, right? What I mean by that is, was Absalom supposed to be the next king after David on the throne?
it.
No. Who's supposed to be?
No,
Solomon. Now, it's really interesting because if Absalom would have been the next king, is it possible that Jesus would have just come through Absalom's line instead of Solomon's? You understand the issue? Like, if Absalom could have become king, then the kingly bloodline would have stopped with Absalom.
With Solomon?
With Absalom.
Oh, because he had no sons. Yeah.
Remember, it started out at one point, he had 2 sons and a daughter. But we don't know the story, but something happened to those sons because when Absalom died, it talked about the tower he set up because he had no heir.
Yeah.
So if Solomon would have been king, then the throne would not have been able to stay in the same line.
Except God could have intervened.
Well, shocker, God could intervene. Like, what he could do is not let Absalom become king.
and he didn't.
And he didn't. He might even cause a warrior to get his hair caught in a tree. So, yes, that is exactly why we end up where we're at in chapter 19, verse 41. David was anointed king. It's almost like he ran from Saul for so long and defeated enemies that once he became king, he wasn't sure what to do with it. That's almost how it looks. It's like, I don't even know who I am as king. I only know who I am when I'm on the run. Oh, Absalom's coming. Good, now I know how to do this. Let's run. At least it's not the best, but it's familiar. Don't we do that? Mankind, one of the weirdest things to watch is how man will stay in the same loop knowing it's bad for him, but it's at least familiar. See it all the time. And I think that's, in a way, it seems like that's what David was doing. Even Joab said, it seems like you would have rather you died and all of us with you so that Absalom could live. Now, Joab's reading David right. And yet, you would think that if David had such high regard for the Lord's anointed when the Lord's anointed was Saul, that he would have a high regard for the Lord's anointed when the Lord's anointed is himself.
I was thinking after last week, up until the time he became king, we read about David inquiring of the Lord.
Right.
Inquiring of the Lord. Once he becomes king, we don't read about him inquiring of the Lord. So I went and looked in Psalms.
Mm-hmm.
There is only one psalm that is written, that we know,
Right, for sure.
that was written during the time when he was fleeing from Absalom. From the time that he became king, there's no indication that he even was
Inquiring of the Lord.
Psalms.
Wow.
And
He even quit writing.
we don't know because some of them don't have subscriptions. You don't know
Yeah.
when they were written. But that's the only one that I found in the whole of 150 Psalms. So didn't inquire of the Lord, wasn't close enough to writing psalms,
In fact,
and makes mistakes.
yeah, and he keeps blowing it. And so, for those of you that are in the 55 and up category with me, let this be a reminder: you can live with God your whole life and then distance yourself towards the end. Don't do that. Finish the course hard for the Lord.
Solomon's a good example of that.
Yeah. Yep.
He was elderly when he was out of the worshiping team.
Yep. He went right back in his older age. It took a while for his wives to push it on him, but he was allowing it. But yeah, listen, don't get weak in your old age. We need the strength. All right, so that brings us to verse 41. Now we're all in the context. Let me remind you. So David won the battle against Absalom. Absalom's dead. David starts to come back, and the rumors actually started in Israel with the 10 tribes, saying, hey, let's go get David and let him be our king. Instead of Absalom, instead of finding somebody else. Isn't he the one that delivered us from our enemies? Isn't he the one the Lord anointed? Let's go get him. David hears about that, but he's still a little miffed, because even though they're starting to think that way, that is the army that just pursued him. And so he's thinking, instead, he's trying to be a healer and a uniter. We see that in the way he deals with Amasa. We'll see that again in a moment. He was the commander over Israel that David says, I'll get rid of Joab and let you come in. He's trying to be the uniter. But then what he does, he goes and gets Judah and says, hey, all Israel's going to take me. You want to let them be first? And Judah says, no, we're with you. We'll do it first. So they come together and they get David. They start walking, crossing the Jordan and towards Jerusalem, making a statement, we're the ones that are bringing in the king. Everybody else can follow us. That's a political statement for sure. Okay? You understand? Everybody got any questions about that? All right, that's where we're at. Now verse 41. Soon all the men of Israel were coming to the king and saying to him, why did our brothers, the men of Judah, steal the king away and bring him and his household across the Jordan, together with all his men? And all the men of Judah, the ones with David, answered the men of Israel, well, we did this because the king is closely related to us. You see the political tension going on? Why are you angry about it? Have we eaten any of the king's provisions? Like, we're not here just for us, but he is closer to us. He's family to us. Have we taken anything for ourselves? Then the men of Israel answered the men of Judah, we have 10 shares in the king. So we have a greater claim on David than you have. There's 10 tribes, and there's 2 tribes with Judah. Why then do you treat us with contempt? Weren't we the first to speak of bringing back our king? Like, why are you so important? Y'all see a problem with anything going on here?
They're acting like they're 2 different countries already. Like it's.
That's so important. I'm glad you brought that up, because they are acting like 2 different countries. And this rift starts to show now, develops under Solomon, and at the end of Solomon, we have a divided kingdom. So it's going to grow. Why can't they, they both want David as king. Why can't they just say, well, look, forget who brought him, we're just glad he's here. What purpose would there be for a rift coming between them over this issue?
Why couldn't they unite the kingdoms?
Because they can't unite the kingdoms. But What force is trying to keep them divided?
Well, there's also, as we're gonna see, there now is tribal identity as opposed to the country, national. You
Okay.
know, Saul was from the tribe of Benjamin, and now David's from the tribe of Judah. So you've got that tension between those two tribes, and then everything else adds into it.
Okay, I'm going to put two things together. Last two answers that were given. What Kathy just told us about the tribal conflict, and I heard it over here, might have been Amanda, said Satan is doing this. We love to throw Satan in the mix and blame everything on him, right? Let me tell you why. He's to blame for all of it. Okay? Do not get tired of saying, well, Satan did it. Now, if Satan does it, does that alleviate us of our guilt if we let him work through us because of our pride, because of our selfishness, because of our lack of wisdom? It's still on us because of our own sin nature. You can't, I have no room to say, well, it's not my fault, the devil made me do it. It's like, if the devil did it, yeah, but I let him. Like, I'm just as guilty. Y'all?
Because we all have the resource of God on our side.
Exactly.
Who will defeat Satan every time.
So let me ask you this. Why would the devil want them divided and not united?
To disrupt the entire covenant and the
Hang on just for a second. You're right, but just give me just a second. Because you're 2 steps ahead of me, right? Or you're in the right spot. But hang on there just for a minute. What I want to get across is that, I mean, it's easy to say, well, of course Satan wants to divide. He's a divider.
He's thinking long term.
The devil is thinking long term, because does the devil ever unite?
Yes.
Yes, he does. In fact, go back to the Tower of Babel, God said, I want you to scatter and multiply. So what did the devil do? Let's all come together and unite and build a city for ourselves. And so when God says, divide and scatter, Satan says, unite. When God says, I want you to unite, the devil says, I want to divide you. All right? Let's, for the sake of fun, those of you that have been on the Wednesday night study for a while, we actually started in Genesis 1:1, and in like 20 years, we've made it this far so far.
What's it been, like 4?
Something like that, about 4 or 5. Yeah, we're doing good. I want you to go back to Genesis chapter 28. All the way back, God promised Abraham to be a nation, right? He said, I'll make you into a great nation. Does he said, I will make you into great nations? There's a great nation. Through Abraham comes Isaac. Through Isaac comes what 2 boys? Jacob and Esau. Okay? I want you to look at chapter 28, Genesis 28. Isaac is blessing Jacob. So Isaac called for Jacob and blessed him. Then he commanded him, do not marry a Canaanite woman. Go at once to Padan Aram, to the house of your mother's father Bethuel. Take a wife for yourself there from among the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. So keep it in the family. Distant enough, it's legit, but close enough, it's not a foreigner. Verse 3, may God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you have become a community of peoples. Now, when we were back in Genesis 28 and we dug into what a community of peoples means, what we found out is peoples are tribes, languages, tongues. They're different ethnicities. And normally, what would happen if you had offspring and they each became fruitful, they each could become a city, their own people group. Go all the way back to Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Through them, go to Genesis back in 10 and 11, and it gives their genealogies, and how each one became their own nation, their own people, their own tribes with their own languages. Okay? So what was happening early on in human history, a lot of multiplication, the world was pretty empty as far as people are concerned, and so they would spread out and they would multiply. And so they would become a people group. And this is the first time that it says, but instead of each tribe becoming a nation, you will be a nation of people groups. It was the first time that that was commanded. Like, it didn't happen that way normally. It should have been, if everything went as normal, there'd have been 12 nations that came out of Jacob. But instead, this was a prophecy. You're going to be different than all the others. You will be a community of peoples, a community of ethnicities, a community of different groups. Do you understand what I'm saying? That was a prophecy. The minute God prophesied, you are going to be a unity, a community of peoples, the devil went, I heard that. So what's his goal from that point on?
Divide, divide, divide.
Yeah. Well, and what for? Because together, can they not do a lot of evil? That's what the devil wanted at Babel. There's only one reason he wants them divided.
Opposite of what God
It's
says.
the opposite of what God says. God said, I want them united. All right, I'm going to divide them. God says, I want them divided. Okay, I'm going to unite them. He can't have an original thought. He's just the antithesis of anything God says. Look at chapter 35 of Genesis. Genesis 35. Verse 9. And after Jacob returned from Padan Aram, what was he supposed to do there?
Get a wife.
Get a wife. God appeared to him again and blessed him. God said to him, your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will be Israel. So he named him Israel. And God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number, a nation and a community of nations. You see it? So let's go back to 2 Samuel.
With a plural nation.
Mm-hmm. It's not just a big nation. It's
Many nations.
It's a United Nations, not our UN we have today.
So different nations?
The tribes.
No.
The tribes.
But it's the tribes. You're on the right. It's the people groups of the tribes are going to be united.
It's saying nations there because they all have different customs. They all have different.
So they become a nation.
culture.
Is that right?
You're close.
You're really close.
They had the potential to each be a nation, and instead of being individual nations, God says, I'm going to make you one. So the devil then steps in and says, God wants you one, I'll make you many. 12 different ones. Can't get there, we'll take 2 over here and 10 over here. Anything he can do to keep them divided. And notice the devil works it out so that the line of Judah, where the Messiah is promised to come through, is the smaller one for Israel to be against. Do you not see the hand of the devil in all of that? Well, if you see the hand of the devil in all of that, and it looks like it should be impossible for the line of David to continue because Absalom, who was without offspring, without heir, thank you. It seems like, and David, he's doing everything wrong to stay as king. What is keeping this all together? When life is messed up, who keeps it together? God does. It's just amazing how God, through providence, keeps it all together. So now we've got the men of Israel saying, we've got 10 tribes, you've only got 2. And they're saying, yeah, but we're blood related, you're not. They should have just said, hey, you're the blood related, we got 10 tribes, imagine what we can do together. But there's still the selfishness that's that's there. So the issue is not really who's transporting him across the river. It's who gets the honor, who gets the influence, who gets political ownership, who wins the tribal rivalry. And we are so good as humans to make the wrong point the point. A lot. Underneath the argument is this deeper tension where Judah sees David as our king because he's from our tribe, and the northern tribes fear Judah because they're getting too strong and now they got the king, and how are we going to hold that tribe down? Anytime you have to hold somebody down in order to be lifted up, you are backwards. If you ever want to be lifted up, look, marriages, listen. If in order to get what you think you need in marriage, you have to lower the other person down to get up there, you're wrong. You're already lost. If the other one's winning, good, lift them up even more. Lift her up even more, because the higher they're lifted, you go up with them. Did I say it right the way you told me to?
Good point there.
All right.
I was gonna say earlier when you were talking about the tribes, I'm going through Joshua right now and even Deuteronomy and all the allotment, and how the whole nation, it was set up to be a community. So they had like the center where all the worship, where they were all supposed to come together to continue that community, even though they had all these allotments.
Yes.
As you read that, you can see again where he was trying to build that sense of, okay, you're going to be all these different, you're in all these different spaces, but
Yep.
this is going to be the
But you're
center.
still together.
Yes,
and-
but
and-
this is the center, so you're going to come back at least, twice a year.
Yeah, in that context, it's where some of them say, hey, we don't want to cross the Jordan, we're happy right here. Yeah, but we helped you fight for this land. If you leave here, then you don't help them fight for their land over there. Oh no, we promise. If you give us this land when it's time to fight over there, we will come. And they did. Like there's a lot of this going on. It was a unique thing to see a unity, a community of peoples that God was doing. All right, let's keep going. In chapter 19, where did I leave off at? 43.
You were halfway through 43.
All right, the men of Israel answered the men of Judah, we have 10 shares in the king, so we have greater claim on David than you have. Well, why then do you treat us with contempt? Weren't we the first to bring back our king? But the men of Judah pressed their claims even more forcefully than the men of Israel. All right, so the men of Judah, no, it's because we're blood and that's all that matters,
He loves me more than he loves you.
Yeah, so they're they're junior high warriors, Now, that sets the stage for chapter 20, and we got 14 minutes. I'm going to see if I can get through chapter 20. Just through chapter 20.
That's a lofty goal.
It is. All right, let me start by reading verses 1 to 22. Because they really do go together. It will help you to see this picture as a whole instead of piecing it, then this, then this, and this. I really want to, I got it in my notes, right? Read it all, verse 1 to 22, right there. All right, here we go. Now a troublemaker named Sheba, son of, I don't know if it's Bikri. I think Bickery.
That's perfect.
Bikri? Yeah, but Bickery just sounds more like he's Bickery. He's a Benjamite. Who else is a Benjamite? Okay, good. Happened to be there. He sounded the trumpet and shouted, "We have no share in David." Don't you love the exaggerator? Well, if they want him, then we don't get any. How come you don't love me at all? You never do that for me. Aren't we good at exaggeration? All right. We have no share in David, no part in Jesse's son. Every man to his tent. Let's just go home. You with me? Let's go. And he starts lead him away. So verse 2, so all the men of Israel deserted David to follow Sheba, son of Bichri, but the men of Judah stayed by the king all the way from the Jordan to Jerusalem. They could have celebrated together, but nope, we're happy to celebrate it without them. I hate bickering like that. When David returned to his palace in Jerusalem, he took the 10 concubines he had left to take care of the palace. Remember those, I don't want to get into this too much, but those are the ones that Absalom defiled in order to prove his point over David.
On the rooftop where
Yeah,
David
I started
saw
saying
it.
on the rooftop.
Yeah, it was not private,
But,
you know.
yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing. We won't go into it. But he, in order to prove his authority back, he put them all into hiding and said, lock them up, take care of them, until they die. This is what we're about to see. When David returned to his palace in Jerusalem, he took the 10 concubines he had left to take care of the palace and put them in a house under guard. He provided for them but had no sexual relations with them. They were kept in confinement till the day of their death, living as widows. Then the king said to Amasa, summon the men of Judah to come to me within 3 days. Now, who's Amasa?
The leader now of
The,
the tribes.
great. Well, the leader of the army who used to hold that position? Joab. All right, good. We're there. And so David says to him, you got 3 days, bring everybody here and be here yourself. Verse 5. But when Amasa went to summon Judah, he took longer than the time the king had set for him. How's that for your first day on the job? That's a mistake, isn't it? The king says, I've gotten rid of Joab, this victorious leader, to put you in place. You got big shoes to fill. Be back here with Judah in 3 days. 3 days comes, he's not back. 4 days, where is this guy? Verse 6, David said to Abishai, now Sheba, son of Bichri, will do us more harm than Absalom did. By the way, $10 million question. Who is Abishai's brother? Joab. So keep that in mind. David took Joab out of position and put in Amasa. Amasa doesn't show up, so David picks Joab's brother to take Joab's place now. Are you seeing that? It's going to be really. How's that awkwardness between two brothers? All right, so that's what's happening. This Abishai is Joab's brother, so Joab went from victorious leader to 3rd place on the totem pole. How do you think he's going to like that?
Not very good.
Not very good. All right, here we go. Take your master's men, to Abishai, he says this, take your master's men and pursue him, or he will find fortified cities and escape from us. So Joab's men, but who's leading them? Abishai. Y'all seeing how awkward this is, right? So Joab's men and the Kerethites and the Pelethites and all the mighty warriors went out under the command of Abishai. They marched out from Jerusalem to pursue Sheba, son of Bichri. While they were at the great rock in Gibeon, Amasa came to meet them. I'm here now, I'm ready to lead. Can you see that happening? How do you think that's going to go? All right, so Joab was wearing his military tunic, and strapped over it at his waist was a belt with a dagger in its sheath. As he stepped forward, it dropped out of his sheath. Let me ask you, does a warrior accidentally drop his dagger? No, this is, I think he's like, oops, let me just, oops, it fell, oops, watch and see. And Joab said to Amasa, hey, how are you, my brother? You think Joab likes Amasa? No. They just fought against each other. And then Amasa gets his job. But Amasa, he is no match for Joab, even mentally. So then Joab took Amasa by the beard, grabbed him, come here, I'm going to kiss you, my friend. He was with the right hand to kiss him. Amasa was not on his guard against the dagger in Joab's hand. And Joab plunged it into his belly, and his intestines spilled out on the ground without being stabbed again. So one cut with a dagger is all Joab needed. And Amasa died. Well, I will say this is the quick version. We'll see in a minute. It may have taken him a little time laying there, but he dies. You know, they're not always chronological. I'll tell you, when he kills him here. It makes that clear. We'll go back up and tell us a little bit more about that in a moment. Then Joab and his brother Abishai pursued Sheba, son of Bichri. Now, I picture Joab, this mighty warrior, runs up to, Amasa's coming up, and Joab, oh, hi, how you doing? And, oh, I dropped my dagger, come here. You see how he throws Amasa off like, I'm so glad to see you, and he stumbles, and I'm just this bumbling idiot. I dropped my dagger. Oh, sorry, come here, you big oaf. Give me a hug. Takes him out.
And that was his cousin too, right?
Yes.
It was his family.
Yeah, they're related.
No, but like they were like.
Let me keep going, because I want you to catch this story. Verse 11. One of Joab's men stood beside Amasa and said, whoever favors Abishai? Whoever favors Joab. There wasn't a person there that thought Abishai was the leader. Y'all seeing what I'm seeing here? David has lost control. Even his word of who he puts in charge, what's that mean at this point? Nothing. Whoever favors Joab and whoever is for David, let him follow Joab. And Amasa lay wallowing in his blood in the middle of the road. Does that sound like he's dead yet? Not if he's wallowing, that's exactly right. And the man saw that all the troops came to a halt there. So as they're walking down the road, they're stopping and going, oh my goodness, that's Amasa. He's supposed to be our commander. And and look at him, he's alive. What do we do? But his intestines are out on the road, and he's like, I'm not trying to be gross, but welcome to the Bible. When he realized that everyone who came up to Amasa stopped, it's like, this is a bottleneck. Now they're all stopping to look at him, and we got a job to do. He dragged him from the road into a field and threw a garment over him so that nobody else would even see what happened. After Amasa had been removed from the road, everyone went on with Joab to pursue Sheba, son of Bichri. Who are they following?
Joab.
Not Abishai? Sheba passed through all the tribes of Israel to Abel Beth Makkah and through the entire region of the Bichrites, who gathered together and followed him. So he's building up some support along the way. He's a Bichrite, and these bickering Bichrites are with him. All the troops with Joab came and besieged Sheba in Abel Beth Makkah. So it's a big city, it's got walls, and they surrounded the city, and Sheba's got some followers with him. They built a siege ramp up to the city, and it stood against the outer fortifications. While they were battering the wall to bring it down, a wise woman.
I wonder what wise.
Yeah, shrewd. We've heard that word before. A wise woman, but she is wise. A wise woman called from the city. Listen, listen. Can you imagine? Here's all these soldiers with a battering ram, and they've built this ramp up to the gate, and they're about to pound it down. this woman stands out there and, excuse me, gentlemen, stop. Can I talk to you for a minute? That hurts my throat. Listen, tell Joab to come here so I can speak to him. She goes right for the head, doesn't she? Mm-hmm. Take me to your leader, like take me right to the top. And he went toward her and she asked, are you Joab? I am, he answered. She said, listen to what your servant has to say. I'm listening. He's relaxed. He knows he's got him. He's in charge. She continued, long ago, they used to say, get your answer at Abel. That's the town they're in. And that settled it. Like we had answers. We were wise. We knew right things to do. We are the peaceful and faithful in Israel. You are trying to destroy a city that is a mother in Israel. Why do you want to swallow up the Lord's inheritance? Pretty smart. But can you see why Sheba went there? Oh, certainly they wouldn't want to kill these people. That's a tactic they still use in the Middle East, if you know what I'm talking about. Far be it from me, Joab replied, far be it from me to swallow up or destroy. That is not the case. A man named Sheba, son of Bichri, from the hill country of Ephraim, has lifted up his hand against the king, against David. Hand over this one man, and I'll withdraw from the city. The woman said to Joab, his head will be thrown to you from the wall.
Try that visual. Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. These guys are going to have a splitting headache. Yeah.
We're almost there.
It is something to lose your head over. Then the woman went to all the people with her wise advice. So she had some clout in that city, didn't she? She said, hey, this guy that came in that's related to us.
Is that the same woman that was shouting, listen? Same woman?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And she says, like, let's get that guy, cut his head off, and we can live. They're like, okay. And they cut off his head, the head of Sheba, son of Bichri, and threw it to Joab. So he sounded the trumpet, and his men dispersed from the city. Each returned to his home, and Joab went back to the king in Jerusalem. You didn't want to make me boss? I just want another victory for you. David says, hey, I put 2 people over him. He's third in line now. And they come back victorious, but he's like, I did it. Can you see the tensions mounting? And what's going on here? Now, let me read these last verses. We're not going to talk about them. There's not today. But Joab was over Israel's entire army. So he's back in the saddle, right? Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, was over the Kerethites and Pelethites. Adoniram was in charge of forced labor. Jehoshaphat, son of Amilud, was recorder. Sheva was secretary. Zadok and Abiathar were priests. And Ira, the Jairite, was David's priest. So, almost. Look at verse 1. I'm not going to go through. Yeah, we're not going to go through chapter 21, I promise. During the reign of David, there was a famine for 3 successive years. All right, so do you see the transition from this and this and this? And then all of a sudden, and then in the time that David was king, there was somewhere in the middle of that, there was a 3-year famine. Let's talk about that piece. It's like all this stuff led up to a transition now where it's going to kind of just speed some things up. And here's what I want to say about the part that I've just read to you. Let's see, I want to do this really fast. Which are my key lines here? In this story, we have 2 men that suddenly became central and they thought they had power. Amasa and Sheba. Amasa was made commander over the armies of Israel and Judah under David. And then there was this guy who has his 30 seconds of fame. Stands up, he's a rabble-rouser. David starts chasing him. He gets a few guys to go with him. But at the end of the day, some woman says, cut his head off, and they do. He's a nobody. In both these cases, you have men who became central, but then, and seemed powerful and important, but disappear almost immediately. Both men looked significant briefly, but they don't shape the future at all. Is it easy for us to look at situations and people and say, that absolutely, that's significant, that's a big deal?
No.
And then what happens? Then it's not a big deal. God keeps doing what he wants to do. It shows the power of God. Amasa, a new commander, Sheba, a rebel leader, and by the end of one chapter, they're both dead, and they've amounted to nothing. Temporary human power is not powerful enough to decay against a covenant that God had set. It almost feels like the book of Judges, like stuff going on here, where it begins to feel like every man is doing that which is right in his own eyes. That's how Judges starts and ends. Seems like that's happening here. There's turbulence. It's cyclical. It's rebellions. It's people that are opportunists and violent removals and unstable loyalties and local survival. And yet, at the end of the day, with all this going on, who's still on the throne? God's on the ultimate throne. Who's still on the throne of Israel? David is. And so it just shows, we see things from a human perspective that looks so important and so significant, and really God's in control of all of it. Any other comments, questions?
The guy
Yes.
that dropped his knife,
Yeah.
it reminds me of the guy that's telling you how great you are and he's patting you on the back.
Yes.
Put the soft spot, put the back there.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Well, the whole thing again, I read that and I'm like, another instance where David's like, well, forget it, I'm not gonna fight it, so he's gonna be over my army anyways. Like I've tried appointing 2 different people and he's still in, and so there we leave off the chapter with, forget it.
Yeah.
I'm not fighting again.
Yeah.
Again, just one of those lack of leadership moments for
It
David.
is. I mean, even at the end of this, who's in charge now? Joab. Did David put him in charge?
No, he just took charge.
He says, no, Dave, you can't get rid of me.
I wonder what Joab did with Sheba's head. And did he catch it like a football?
They roll it down the ramp. All I got to say, that woman said, today heads will roll.
Yeah. That's visual.
It's bad. We have to crack those kinds of jokes because Jackie likes them. So, y'all are dismissed.